Be nice. All right. And we are live. All right, friend. Let's do this. Guys, welcome to this week's show. If we haven't met yet, my name is Ali Mona, and I'm actually a health strategist and an online business mentor, which is kind of funny because today's topic is a little, maybe off topic a little bit, but we're going to make the connection for you. Every week, I get on live with experts like Stephanie today. And these experts are across various disciplines in health and wellness so that collectively we can take our holistic health to the next level. And financial health, as you're going to find out today, to me is one of the most key aspects of the foundations of living a healthy lifestyle. We all know when finances are hard, marriage stress, personal stress, all of that stress does impact our physical and mental health. And so I am super passionate about building community across the globe and helping people unlock levels of freedom and possibility into your life. And so by providing you access to people like Stephanie, this is one way that I'm super privileged to serve you. So I'm glad that you're here with us. Now, this is a very special 4-part series in honor of Financial Literacy Month. And so I'm speaking with Stephanie Peters, who is a financial coach, an entrepreneur, and a champion of women as the commandos of their money. So if you're a dude, you can totally stick around. But there's lots of financial resources out there for men that are geared towards men. Yeah. And so Steph's story is super interesting. She's paid off $135,000, $135,000 of student loans, credit card, and auto loan debt. And so she's walked the walk, right? And she knows firsthand the havoc that financial stress can wreak on both your personal life and your marriage. So we're going to get into that story. I think it's a really important connection point for us. But Stephanie's super passionate about creating a a safe space for women to help women step up their financial power and achieve their goals. And Steph does this through one-on-one coaching, accountability, and ongoing support. So, Steph, I'm thrilled to have you here today. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. This is such a fun series. I'm so excited for our conversations over the next 4 weeks.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. Now, I want to start out with just a bit of the scope of our conversation. You are a financial money coach. You're not an
Mhm.
advisor. What's the difference?
Yeah, great question. Because when I say financial coach, a lot of people think financial advisor automatically. And, financial coaching or money coaching, those can be used interchangeably, um, is more of a subset of life coaching than it is of financial advising. So think of it as like a personal trainer for your money. I educate you, I motivate you, I break down, the steps into bite-sized pieces, like looking at your long-term goals. Financial advisors are great at what they do, but they focus on your money's behavior in the market, right? So
Got it.
your 401k, your investments, all of that long-term growth stuff, which is great, and I really love and trust my expert referral partners for that. Financial coaches focus on your behavior with money, which is a much different thing. And a lot of times, if you don't get your behavior with your own money under control, you ain't ever going to get anything to invest in the market with
Correct.
for,
That's what
for
I
a
was
financial
thinking.
advisor with. So what I say
Yes.
is that I love to help. I partner with a lot of financial advisors because people will come to them and say, "Oh, I want to invest," and they look at their, they just look at their life and they're like, "You're not ready to invest. You have too much debt, you have too much high interest debt, or are you're negative in your cash flow every month," and they'll send them to me. And I love to say that I can get people living paycheck to paycheck that don't have any investable assets, to the point where they have money to invest. They can start thinking even longer term and get them out of that cycle, and where they can't see beyond their next, meal they're on, their next rent check, their next mortgage
Right.
payment, and get them to be able to work with a financial advisor. But it's more the
Yes.
on the ground, day-to-day, nitty-gritty money stuff, that really isn't a financial advisor's wheelhouse. They don't really get into the weeds like that. They want to focus on your money in the market, and I want to focus on you and how you act with your money.
Awesome. So there's this scale kind of in scope of what we're working with. So, we're not making investment recommendations here. This is not what we're doing. What we're doing here with Steph's expertise is we're getting into your money mindset. And we've got this 4-part series. So today we're talking about mastering your cash flow, first and foremost, right? Next week, we're talking about ditching bad debt for good. And I'm not going to tell you the other two. We know them, but you're going to have to come back for more.
We will
But
get to
really, we're
investing. Yeah.
yes, we're going to get to investing, right? Um, but these are the foundational steps that we have to cover, just like Stephanie's saying, before we have that extra to be able to invest. Yeah. Okay, so $135,000 paid off in debt. That is a feat that lots of people have that debt. I don't know anyone else who's paid off that amount of debt. The most amount of debt that we have paid off when we went through kind of a similar journey as you, as you'll tell in a second, I think we paid off 41.
Well,
Um, I want to hear the story of your debt repayment and how that kind of landed you in this career path.
yeah. Yeah. Thanks. And it's actually more than that now because, funny things happen when you buy a house and then you feel like you have to fill it with stuff. And then you're like, well, we did it before and, $10,000 isn't that bad after what we paid off. Right. So that's just to say, just because I did it once, like, you can get back into that habit and pattern if you're not careful. But yeah, let's rewind it back to the roots, right? Because this is where a lot of people's money relationships and patterns come from is their family of origin. So that's where mine starts. And, I grew up in a family that didn't talk about money, at least not productively anyway, right? We screamed about money, but never talked about it. So, my mom always like over exaggerated and my dad always underplayed and downplayed everything, so we were lucky enough to, take family vacations and be involved in sports and activities and theater and, all of that kind of stuff. But we never knew what our financial situation actually was. Like between my mom and dad's arguments and my mom overplaying things and my dad, underplaying things, like I gathered we were always somewhere between affording anything we wanted and getting evicted tomorrow. So
No clarity, lack
yeah.
of clarity.
Uh,
Okay.
and maybe that's where my need for like total clarity at all times comes from because yeah, you grow up and it's not like none of those were true, right? Neither of those things were true, but you never really knew it. And gosh, it just reminds me like I worked with a client one time that they literally were not allowed to talk about money in their household growing up, even as they were getting evicted, like literally losing their home. It was foreclosed on and they were moving, and their parents still did not let them talk about money. So if you think
Mm.
about how that kind of stuff affects, and when we get into mindset, we'll talk about this, but you think about how that kind of stuff like affects your habits and patterns down the line, it's no wonder you don't talk with your spouse, before you get married about money, because if you think that talking about money means fighting, because that's all you ever saw when you grew up, like you're going to shy away from that.
Mhm.
Um, so fast forward to when I got married, actually a year into it, I didn't know until a year into our marriage that I had married into $95,000 of student loan debt and $10,000 of credit card debt. Because again, why would you talk about that if money talking like meant fights, right? Or like shame or holding, using it to hold power over another person, like when you're young and dumb and in love and like, why would you talk about that, right?
Those
Um,
rose-colored glasses, baby. No one would get married without them.
seriously. Uh, just another area of my life I'd wish I'd done differently. But it's okay to like not get married in your 20s. But 12 years in, we're doing great. But so it wasn't until a year in, and I was, over here carrying my own little, $5,000 in debt, being like, oh, it's not that bad. And we also had two cars break down before we'd finished paying either of them off. So like we were buying one off my mom, it broke down, hadn't finished paying that off, bought another cheap junker on Craigslist. That broke down before we'd finished paying it off. So we couldn't even sell them to like pick and pulls for parts because we didn't have the titles. So we had two dead cars, and one that worked. And I just like refused to get another. So, just getting slapped like with that number, and having to share it with the financial like group that I was in was really my wake up call. Like that was the turning point in my life where I said, no more. I
Mhm.
finally took the reins on my own financial life. Like that's what made me realize like nobody's going to teach me this stuff. Like it's time for me to put the pants on and do the work. So I worked 7 days a week for 3 years. I bartended, I waitressed, I catered, I worked at a winery on top of my, medical assistant job, and then later my very low paying 9 to 5 nonprofit job. My husband worked full time and then like refereed like adult beer league softball games in the evenings. One year,
Whatever it took.
5 W-2s. It was wild.
Well, and let me pause you here, Steph, because both of you have undergraduate degrees, master's degrees or undergraduate?
Both master's degrees in the healthcare profession. Um, yeah, and we were living in Seattle, and we never made over like 90 combined annually. And for people in the US, that's $90,000 annually USD
One of the
combined.
most expensive cities.
Yep. One of the most
Yeah.
expensive cities with master's degrees in the healthcare profession, and we were living in like a $700 square foot shoebox, I called it. And yeah, so between, two cars that broke down and four cars, really, the two that we uh, bought used and still have today, and the two that we finally paid off and then sold for parts. Plus all the debt. Yeah, it came to around 135,000 in 3 years. So yeah, all while living in one of the nation's most expensive cities and never like making over 100 grand combined. So, that was like, oh, hooray, we did it. And honestly, it was miserable. Like literally imploded my life, almost destroyed our marriage. And in fact, like the last 6 months of paying off that debt, we weren't even living together. And like a lot of people don't even know that still. His shame,
Well, they
like,
will now.
I know. Yeah, and I'm more comfortable talking about it years later because we're still married, and thank God for Gottman therapists. Like I say, everyone needs a marriage therapy or relationship therapy before they think they do, because it teaches you a brand new way to communicate. And that truly saved our marriage. We had a pastor a long time ago that always said there's three types of people in the world: people that have been in therapy, people that are in therapy, and people that still need therapy. So
Awesome. And true.
I proponent of that. But yeah, his shame, I was putting off my career dreams to pay off his student loan debt. I just felt so saddled with it at the time, and was listening to some of that like toxic white male privileged talking head financial advice that's out there, and that debt was the worst thing in the world and absolutely needed to be paid off before anything else. And so I had growing resentment at the same time, and started to get bitter. So shame and guilt on his side, and bitterness and resentment on my side is really not a great combination early in a marriage when you're struggling financially and working 7 days.
Right.
And I just say that to like say that I've learned along the way a lot, and absolutely would never coach anyone to get out of the debt the way we did. But that process of getting out of debt, it, like, planted the seed for my career change into financial coaching, and telling our story to others and realizing that it was like impactful to people made me realize that financial coaching was something I was really passionate about and something I could do, for good, like for the greater good. And so I don't know, I just have this fire for helping people take control of their own financial lives and futures, like especially women. Because I just feel like I know if we can do it, and I recognize my privilege as a white person in this country, but also the oppression of being a woman in mostly men's professions in my career. So I just want to use that to bring hope and encouragement and like actionable steps to any situation. Regardless of their roadblocks or past money mistakes. Like, we don't have it
Right.
all together. Everyone has a money history. I don't think anyone that gets into money coaching is someone that was like handed a trust fund and was like, let me go educate the people on the ground. Like, everyone has had their past. So, and what has, I don't know, shaped my niche like into helping women and women entrepreneurs. And I work with a lot of divorced women, a lot of widowed women, and a lot of couples trying to save their marriage like we were. But growing up in progressive Seattle with like a strong, educated, breadwinning mother, I was already a raging feminist, but coaching specifically in a community of women, like, just put me intimately more in tune with some of the unique financial struggles women and minorities face, and just left me more fired up about fighting the inequities in society, like, that has left women out of the financial conversation for 200 years. I saw something, we just hit the 50th anniversary of women being able to get a credit card in their own name without a man's signature.
50 years.
Mhm. Yeah, thanks to Ruth Bader Ginsburg. But I mean, even still
50
today, like,
years.
men can go get a vasectomy on their own, but women can't go get their tubes tied most of the time without like their husband signing off on it. It's wild. So anyway,
Right.
that kind
So
of
there's
stuff
still some inequities.
fires me up. Yeah, yeah. Don't get me
Yeah.
started on the gender pay gap or the gender wealth gap, but that's a whole nother conversation. I
Hmm.
just want to help people everywhere, like take control of their financial lives. Because the world is a better place when women have money. Like I truly believe that. Um, Research
Well, and
backs
stats
that.
show it, right? Stats
Yeah,
show it.
we're better investors. We give back a higher percentage of our income than men do, and we give it back like more directly into the communities in which we live. And so I just want to help people live the financial life they've always wanted, reach their mountaintop, their summit goal, whatever that may be, and enjoy the journey along the way with like confidence and tenacity. And, I like to say, like, I want to be the one who believes in you when you don't believe in yourself. But the one who also comes along and says, like, you know what, it's okay to take a day off to go to your kids' like dance recital or to your niece's or nephew's birthday party. Like, I didn't have that when I was going through this, and I missed out on so much during that time. And it really broke down a lot of family and friend relationships because I just never was there. And I never got, I stopped getting invited at a certain point because I worked 7 days a week and they just assumed I couldn't come anyway. And then I wish I had a me along that time to say, you know what, it's okay. Like you can slow this down. Your marriage is going to be fine. Your life is going to be fine. You're going to get out of debt. And like you
Here's the
don't have
plan.
to,
You're on
yeah,
plan,
run yourself into the
right?
ground. Yeah. And so I just,
Yep.
want to help every woman feel like she can be empowered and confident with money and break those generational cycles and be examples in their families and communities of what is possible, to empower women with their finances so they can inspire and empower others, in their lives to do the same.
Well, and it's so important. I know that you have experience as a foster parent and as a mom of four girls. Like I take that responsibility not lightly,
Yeah.
right? To stop some of those generational things that I felt growing up.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And anyone who has been on a similar debt repayment journey, doesn't matter how much it is, it always requires a bit of sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's always that turning point. And I remember it was New Year's Eve of 2019 going to 20. I was in China. We had just had Grace's last open heart surgery, and we have great medical insurance, but we had to pay
Mm-hmm.
and claim
Yeah.
for an open heart surgery. And so we borrowed $20,000 from friends and family. And then when it came time we got the reimbursement back,
Yeah.
we had overspent.
Oh yeah. You'd already spent it before you got it.
We had overspent it. And now we owed friends and family back because some of the things that we thought we would be reimbursed for by the hospital, we weren't reimbursed for.
Mm-hmm.
And so New Year's Eve, as the clock struck to 2020, Ron and we're lying in bed and I am bawling, going, this is enough. Like I am done
Yeah.
living like this.
Yeah.
And that was what it took us 6 months to repay. And so shorter journey, less money. We had more finances because we were living in China at the time. But we wouldn't have we have survived if we lived as tightly as we did for longer than we did.
Yeah.
Because we're talking beans and rice, we're talking black and white, we're talking exactly your journey because you and I were following the same person,
Yep.
the same financial guru, if you will. And so I recognize and I honor your journey in that you want to do things differently.
Yeah.
Because even living like that for 6 months with the girls, it was torturous.
Yeah. Yeah. It takes a
Torturous.
toll on
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
So
everyone has
I
to have their I'm done moment,
yeah,
like and some people hit that earlier than others. I have clients who have $1,000 in credit card debt and it literally like
keeps them
kills
up at
their
night.
soul every day. Yeah. And then there's some with $50,000 and they're like, I don't get paid off. When do you get paid off? Like, and we can get more into that, next week when we talk about paying off debt and ditching debt for good. Um, but yeah, there's no right or wrong way. And like you just brought up black and white, like I think it's all gray. It's all, gray. I love how people explore the nuance in the middle. And I don't think there's a right and wrong way to do it. And money is not a one size fits all thing. Um,
Mm. No,
so
because some people have more risk aversion, some people have lifestyle, I'm going to call them needs, wants
yeah,
that they're unwilling to put down in the
yeah.
process,
Yeah. Well,
right?
and it's,
Mm.
how it relates to your values too, which is what I help people get into. It's like we really look at your values and, is one of your values convenience? Like, because you know that time equals money. And so you're gonna order off of Amazon, like, yeah, I think Jeff Bezos is evil, but I value convenience and options over that sometimes, right? But on the other side of the coin, like there's places I don't shop because they don't pay their employees, right? And or
Mm.
like I value being able to compost and my environmental like impact on the world. And so I literally pay to have a compost membership where it gets picked up once a week from my front door, right? And they do it in a like carbon neutral pickup with like electric trucks and on bicycle around the city, right? And that is spending in alignment with my values, right? And so you might not value the same thing, right? You might value supporting local, restaurants and mom and pop stores, right? I'm not going to tell you like, okay, well, if you're getting out of debt, stop going out to eat and supporting all the people in your community that you've gotten to know and love and support their small businesses. Like it's not a one size fits all thing.
No, and Ron and I are coming up. We do birthdays big because we value community
Yeah.
and we value celebration.
Yep.
And so my JoJo turns 12, which in Chinese culture is a big number this year. And so, no, I'm not going to pull back
Yeah.
because I'm not going to sacrifice that because I value community. So I love that. Like,
Yeah.
we are going to get into budgeting. Tricked. We tricked you. This is really about budgeting.
I was
We didn't want
actually
to say in
just
the
gonna
beginning.
say, well, you can go big for birthdays if we budget for it. Like,
Right, exactly. Right. But in that season, when it was so black and white, we would have not.
yeah,
We would have gone and operated against our values for that tunnel vision goal.
yeah.
And so I value your gray. We're in the same area of gray. Okay, let's get
Thank you.
into Steph. You've done this for a while now. You've got a bunch of clients. What are the main problems that you see as a money coach? Why do they come to you?
Yeah, absolutely. The main problems I see that people come with, right, are I'm in debt and I don't know how to get out. I'm not saving enough to reach my goals. And I overspend or don't know where my money goes every month, right?
Mhm.
Or all of the above.
That
And
money, it just like flies away, doesn't it? I mean, it
yeah,
just,
especially when you don't have a plan for it, like it just
yep.
has a tendency to disappear. So, yeah,
Okay. So how do we organize that? Like, what's the first thing that somebody needs to do
yeah,
in order to get organized financially?
yeah. And I like to start with reframing the mindset because this is all a piece of it and it all like interplays, right? But mastering your cash flow is really all about budgeting. And for those of you that are like triggered by the word budget, I get it, right? But budgeting can also be like a freedom plan, right? So if you look at budgeting as something like a fun sucker and restrictive and just tells you what you can't do, uh, you're not really ever going to be successful at it. And so for me, one, like everything I do involves some form of like the nitty gritty, practical like steps, numbers, and whatnot, but also going to combine the like creative brain, mindset, nuance, how we talk to ourselves, how we speak about it, kind of thing as well. So first, we got to talk about the word budget. and
Yeah, we
I'm,
do.
yeah. What are your first like reactions when you hear the
I
word
hate
budget?
it. It makes me feel restricted and small and constricted and like I can't do what I want.
Yeah. What if you think of it as like a freedom plan or an intentional spending plan? The things
Yep.
that you are free to go and spend like as you wish, while also showing like how you're setting up for future freedom as well. Whether that's paying off debt or saving an emergency fund or saving for retirement. Like I think of it as there's freedom to live within your goals and values when you have a budget.
Yes.
And so that's where I challenge people first is like, let's just even reclaim the word budget. Um, Call it a money plan, call it an intentional spending plan. Uh, just bring more mindfulness to it and say like, this literally is like parameter. I don't even like to say boundary, but I do love the word boundaries because that's another thing I'm working on in my life is,
Everyone
setting
great
boundaries.
for
And I think
solid
it's
boundaries, right?
women
Yep.
entrepreneurs and parents and spouses and friends, like all the boundaries, right? So
Yes.
I love it because I'm like, it is a boundary from within. I can do better, right? It's a boundary from within where I can live the life I want to, right? And sometimes that means saying no to things, right? The boundaries in your life where you don't want to overburden yourself and overcommit and all of that, like learning healthy boundaries in whatever still sometimes involves saying no, right? Do you think of your boundary with like eating as like, guess what? You're going to have the birthday cake at her birthday party, right? Like, but you're not going to have that much cake every single day.
Right.
That's a boundary that you're setting to live your best life in a way that's healthy and fun and authentic to you. And that's how I view, the parameters or the boundaries of a budget too, is that, it's what you want for your long-term goals. And sometimes that does involve saying no.
Well,
Um,
and also when I teach my girls this all the time, being able to say no in the moment because you have that future vision is
mhm.
such an important, like the delaying of
Oh,
gratification is
yes.
such an important life skill,
Hmm.
right? It's a
Yeah.
huge life skill.
But then also budgeting for like the spontaneous, like you can budget for spontaneity, right? You could say, okay, I have these goals and delayed gratification, but you know what? I'm an impulsive person and maybe I just need $100 a month of like, like blow money, like whatever the heck you want, right?
Yeah.
So you can actually still budget to be spontaneous and impulsive sometimes, right?
Well, and
Within
it's
the,
more fun that way because if you
yeah,
know you have 100 to
yep,
spend,
exactly.
then you can spend that freely as opposed to being like, I shouldn't, but I'm going to,
Yeah.
and having negative emotion around that spend.
Yeah. And it's kind of like how I've always approached casinos or like gambling in my life, like trips to Vegas, right? Okay, I'm gonna blow $100. Like wherever I get to and whatever I'm at when that's gone, like we're done, right? If it lasts me 10 minutes or if it lasts me like 10 hours, whatever I choose to do with it, like we're done when that's gone, right? And so I can still have freedom and have fun and engage in the activities without being like a party pooper, but I'm not gonna blow my mortgage for,
Right.
the casino or for that impulsive spending, right? It's still,
Yeah.
so yeah. So, the things like I'm in debt, don't know how to get out, I'm not saving enough, don't know where my money goes. Those to me are symptoms. Like they're not actually the problem. I'm imagine like with you and health journey and even in like marketing and business stuff, there's a lot of like, they think, oh, I'm not getting enough followers or, oh, I'm not, I don't know, make enough progress in like my eating,
The
like it's not
goal.
the
Yeah.
broccoli that's the problem. Like there's something definitely more like rooted in that. And when it comes to money, I think it's really because we can't see our money clearly. Like when it all goes in and out of one big pot and you have the digital world and PayPal and Apple Pay and all these accounts or just like one, that are connected to one account, it feels like chaos. Like we don't know what's going in, what's going out. We don't see how different purchase decisions like affect our goals down the line, especially when you have, oh, the Venmo credit and someone pays you and you don't actually like deposit it, but then you just use your Venmo credit to go buy this shirt or whatever and your PayPal balance. And like literally modern banking is set up so that you don't pay attention to that stuff, and set up so that you spend more. I think that McDonald's was like one of the first fast food companies to take the study. I don't know if they did the study or realized that there was a study done that like showed when you used a credit card, you spent 50 to 200% more. And so they were like one of the first fast food places to start taking credit cards. Um, and we literally like just don't see it and it doesn't have an effect on us. Studies have also shown that using cash like actually lights up the pain centers in your brain, and using a card, yeah, using a card literally lights up nothing. And so, and I'd be interested to see like the studies on, tapping checkout now or pay now, like on Amazon or whatever, just Shopify and Shop Pay and Affirm, where you can have 4 easy payments, right? I'm like, if there's a
Yeah.
level lower than lighting up nothing in our brain that credit cards do, like all those online stuff and digital things light up like less than nothing in our brain, I
Well,
think.
and I wonder if they light up the dopamine center,
Yeah,
like
I was just
just
gonna say
it's
it's a
so
dopamine
easy.
thing. Yep,
If
it is a
there's no
dopamine hit.
pain, then it's pleasure,
Yep. Hmm.
right? It's and like nothing's really neutral in
Yeah.
this world, right? So that's interesting.
Yeah, definitely there's been studies like, yeah, it's shopping addiction, it's an addiction. Like, and that's a whole
Yeah.
nother, a little farther fetched like than we're talking about here. We're not talking about shopping addiction, right? But it's truly an addiction because you get addicted to the dopamine and then your body needs more and more of it to like get the same
Mhm.
pleasure feeling. So I help people like, what if we get organized into just three simple categories, right? In my
Okay.
framework, those categories are your fixed and recurring expenses, right? So your recurring monthly bills, it's usually fixed number. You can determine an average, right? Like utilities that change a little bit, but over the course of a year, we know what the average is. Usually comes out on the same day each month. Monthly bills, rent, mortgage, utilities, phone, internet, subscriptions, insurances, that kind of stuff.
Yep.
Those aren't generally the things that like stress us out. Uh, that's not usually what like blows the budget, right? Those are recurring, they're consistent, we know what they are. Uh, but then there's the day-to-day spending. So that's category number two. So like things you need every month, but when you buy them and how much you spend changes and fluctuates throughout the month. So you might have an average for groceries, but then one trip you spend $50, then one trip you go to Costco with kids and you spend like 400, or the shampoo and the conditioner and the toilet paper and the paper towels like run out all at the same time and it's like $100 more than it normally is. And gasoline and like dining out and that kind of stuff. So that is the stuff that can cause like a little bit of havoc on the recurring and monthly bills, right? It's not the monthly bills that stress us out. It's the, oh, I spent too much at Target and now my like electricity bill is going to bounce because there's not enough in that bank account because I looked and said, oh, well, great, there's $500 in this account. That's awesome. And then you're not thinking about like the bills that still have to come out. You're just thinking you have money left.
Right.
On the last day of the month and not thinking about the things that come out on the first and maybe you don't get paid till the sixth, right?
Yeah.
And then, there's the third category are non-recurring and random expenses. So those are things, some people call them whammies. I call them future spending or like annual spending. So expenses that don't occur all the time, but when they do, they're usually large and can throw off your budget or end up on a credit card. Car repairs, home repairs, medical bills, annual memberships like Costco, Amazon Prime, Sam's Club, AAA, birthdays, holiday gifts. It's not like a surprise that Christmas is in December, right? But like how many people out there literally budget, $100 a month and set that away in savings every single month all year long and then have $1,200 they don't have to come up with in December. Like
Nobody.
radical. I mean, we do because
Yeah.
I'm a nerd. But
Yeah.
yeah, and car repairs, like people say, oh, this was unexpected, or like this surprise expense, our car broke down. I'm like you own a car though, right? Like if you own a car, it's going to need an oil change. It's expected that it's going to need tires at some point. If you own it long enough, it's expected there's going to be some like major repairs to it, right? So it's not that those are unexpected expenses. They're just not planned for, right? There's a
Right.
difference. And
You don't
so,
see them. You just don't see
yeah,
them.
yeah.
You're like, oh gosh, there's that annual subscription again for
Mhm.
$300.
Yep. And when that happens in the same day as like my mom's birthday, and then 2 weeks later is Mother's Day, and then that week is my nephew's birthday, and then 2 weeks later is my dad's birthday. When all that happens in the same month, like we are trucked, and then you throw an Amazon Prime and a Costco renewal in there, and like, yeah, that's going on a credit card or you're overdrawing your account. And so to me, like we can make those mirror a fixed and recurring expense. It just takes a little bit more planning, and a little bit more thought. So
Right.
yeah. So those
Okay.
are
So
the
we
how I organize like how to think about which, categories your spending falls into and then we have to figure out what those are, right? And make a list, right? Organize them into three categories and figure out how that matches up with what's coming in every month.
right. Now, if you're in the camp where you're consistently over, right? My assumption is we would look into that middle bucket first, the grocery expenses, the variables.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, Well, or like the fixed and recurring expenses. I mean, that counts subscriptions. So many people out there, are paying for subscriptions that they don't use, right? That they have Spotify and um, Pandora and Audible and whatever, and they're like, my husband and I like both have our individual Audible accounts, and we're both getting charged that every single month, right? When you go through that list, and we can ask questions like, am I getting the full value out of this membership? Am I
Right.
getting, like, could I get this benefit for less somewhere else, right? Okay, say Spotify and like Amazon Music or whatever, or Apple Music, right? If you have both, are you truly using both? Or you're like, no, I listen to everything on Spotify. Okay, well then get rid of, the Apple one. Like some of those things can be really easy sometimes. Or switching cell phone providers. That's a
Yeah.
recurring bill. They're like that's a game. My brother it's so funny. They'll literally switch providers and then like go the 2 years in order to like switch back to a provider and get brand new phones for everyone for free. Like you can literally hack that kind of stuff,
Same.
and cut your bills down in half. And sometimes even just making phone calls to like your internet company or whoever, and or your credit cards, and asking like for a lower rate, right? So there's a lot in that first category too that we can look at.
Sure. I mean, you could choose to move. You could get a smaller place. You
Yeah,
could, I mean, there's a lot of
depends on
options
the
there.
situation. Yeah. And
Right.
what your values are, right? A lot of people have like if their home is their sanctuary, it's their safe space, it's their retreat. Maybe we are spending a little more on the home and the home stuff and maybe less
Yeah.
on eating out and travel or whatever. If your value is travel, maybe we're spending more on travel and less on the home because it's less important to you and you're fine. It's never again black or white.
Right. I love that lens through the values because that really allows the coaching to be really tailored specific to who I am as a human.
Yep.
And I want to get out of debt and I want to live in accordance with my values. I want both. And you can have both.
Yeah. And what I love about coaching is like it acknowledges the human side across the table from you. Uh, because the path that I followed and the rhetoric that I followed, like literally who you were, what your values were, how it affected your life, how it affected your emotions, how it affected your relationship. Like there was no humanness to it whatsoever. And who cares if you get out of debt and your marriage is ruined? Like,
Exactly. Stay in debt.
um,
Right? Work it out over 10 years, not 3.5, and save your marriage. You know?
or save a lot of money in therapy. But anyway, it just, yeah, there's the humanness to it that I love that coaching allows you to like recognize, right? And your needs and your
Yes.
wants and your values and your desires. Um, and someone to talk through that with you and like make it that okay, that
Yep.
going after that debt. And, there was a time at the end of it, we were putting $4,000 away a month toward debt, like, and not contributing to an IRA to pay off low interest student loan debt. Like, just stupid. But like, that's what you do if you're following like a cult rhetoric that nothing else matters. Like, your life, nothing else matters until debt's gone. And
Yeah.
that's crap. So,
I hear you.
but it
Brandy,
does
I see.
come to, you got to master your cash flow first because you're just
That's
going to
right.
keep
Okay.
getting into
So
debt.
we make these buckets, but
Yep.
then what can we put into place to make these buckets more tangible, right?
Yeah.
Like we followed the everything in cash in an envelope because we needed to see the buckets,
Yep.
right? We ran out
Yep.
of those grocery monies. It was rice and beans until we could replenish that, right?
Yep. Yep.
How can we make digital buckets in today's world that are
Yeah.
practical?
That's a great question. And so many ways to do that. But the basics of it are you think about those three categories, right? Your fixed and recurring expenses, your day-to-day spending, and your savings, like the non-recurrent and random stuff that we need to save for. And literally, I break this out into three different accounts. Let's split it up. So checking account one, like your fixed and recurring expenses, right? So this is your, control center. It's where the money comes into. And then we get money into that, and you're going to make a list of like all of your monthly bills and the amounts, right? And then you add up what you need to cover those every month. And that is what stays in that account. And then we set up auto pay for as many of those as you can. And like you literally, if that's the system you use, you're going to have enough money in that account to pay your bills. And it's not going to like commingle with your target money. So then checking account number two, and this can be a couple different ways, which I'll get into in a minute. Your day-to-day spending, right? So figuring out what you need for that monthly spending, your groceries, your gas, your dining out, clothing, random kid birthday parties that people get invited to, or baby showers, greeting cards, like all of that random stuff. How much do you need in a month for that? And you're going to transfer that every pay period or every month into that separate like spending account. Like literally use a different debit card as a spending card. And you use that for that account for those categories. And I have people even like took a post-it note or write it in permanent marker on their actual like debit card. That's okay. This is for groceries, gas, clothing, eating out, all the like toiletries, cleaning products, day-to-day stuff. But what it does is one, it separates your spending money, your discretionary cash from your bills, right? So you're never gonna overdraw your account on your utility bill because of what you spent at Costco. And it also makes that money more tangible, right? So it's not cash, but in the digital world, if you look in your account and you know that your recurring and fixed bills, like that's off limits, right? But you have $500 in that account and you know that you need to go to the grocery store, you probably need to get gas in your car, and like your kid got invited to a birthday party this weekend and you don't get paid till next Friday, you get to make real decisions of what you do with that cash, right?
Mm.
You have $10 in that account and it's 2 days till payday. We're like, we ain't going anywhere, right? But say you have $400 in that account, it's 2 days till payday. Like, yeah, maybe you get to go out with the girls. Maybe you go get ice cream as a family. Like, you still get to make real-time decisions. And so it just makes it a little more tangible. And there's also a really great product for people that are US based called Cube Money. It literally has taken the cash envelope budgeting system digital. And you literally like create actual envelopes. They call them cubes. And you can say 400 to groceries, 100 to gas, 200 to eating out, whatever. And like you swipe the card, it literally comes out of that envelope digitally.
Oh, fun.
Wild. So there's two camps of people that love that and want to have that oversight of like, I'm going to set this boundary on dining out, right? Or I'm going to set this boundary on wine, or toiletries and cleaning products, right? And groceries, because I don't want to spend over that eating out every month, and they do it that way. Or there's the people that just want the big pot of money and they're like, you know what? I know I need $2,000 a month to like do all the discretionary things. And as long as there's money left over and I bought gas and groceries and like, we went out to eat, or I bought clothing or the little kid birthday party or the baby shower gift, like I'm good. And so it's really, again, personalized what works for you. I personally like categorize it out. I use Cube. I have an affiliate code. If you use Steph or Steph Fam for the family version, you can get 2 months free. You pay for the first month and get the second 2 months free. But I love that because I have a lot of clients that group toiletries and cleaning products in with their groceries. Makes total sense, right? For me, if I did that, I would spend all of my grocery money on like curly girl hair products. And if you're a curly girl, which I know you are, like it's a whole thing. It could use up your whole budget, right? Or like alcohol and groceries, right? If I do that, I'm gonna spend my grocery money on really nice bottle of wine. So I separate it out, but it can be as like macro or as micro as you want it.
As what makes sense for you and your brain to keep you on track.
Yes. Because I'm like, I don't want to spend $500 in eating out, right? If I have my grocery money and all of my food and dining out money combined, like we're going to go out to eat all the time and then like not eat for 3 weeks after that, right? Because we spent all my grocery money in eating out. But for some people that makes sense. Or they just want the one big pot that's just a separate checking account, right, from their bills. But they know what needs to come in and out of there. And they know as long as like there's money left, great, they're doing fine. Right. The only time we would go look at that is like if they're constantly running out of money really early, like what are we under budgeting on? Or if there's constantly like money left all the time, maybe we're over budgeting on something and we can actually use that money better somewhere else.
To work. Yeah.
And then that third category is, to me, your high interest savings account, your high yield savings account. I don't have any affiliation with Ally Bank, but they have buckets, literal savings buckets. So like Cube, but for savings, and you're getting like over 4% interest. And you can have one account and literally up to 20 different buckets under the same account, and you're earning like above market interest on the balance of the whole. And so that, like, every money, every dollar has a purpose. So you're going to add up, what are my savings categories? Okay, emergency fund, holiday gifts, car maintenance, car insurance, right? We pay our car insurance twice a year to get the discount, but I pay
Yep.
myself $200 a month into that savings bucket so that I have $1,200 every 6 months to just go pay my car insurance. And I'm earning the interest on saving for my own
Right.
car insurance. Like,
Right. We love Ally Bank. We use it too.
oh my gosh, I love that. Yeah. So, what other, if you're an entrepreneur or like 1099, you can have tax savings bucket. You can have, like I use that for my pet sitting side gig business where I get money into Ally and I set, 20% into the Rover tax savings bucket. Yeah, car insurance, car maintenance, holiday gifts, what else? Pet bills, like pet insurance, vet
Yeah.
bills, that kind of stuff. Whatever, you want
Those annual
vacations,
subscriptions that seem to
travel.
sneak up on
Yep,
you every year. Huh.
exactly. That's where we save for all of the birthdays, Father's Day, Mother's Day, our anniversary dinner, our birthday dinners, that kind of stuff. We know how much we're gonna spend a year and we divide that by 12 and we put that in like a bucket every month, right? So again, it gets that money out of your checking account. I have people that just leave like $15,000 in their checking account, like all the time. And I'm like, because it makes them feel more secure. I'm like, you realize you could be earning like 5% interest on that bad boy. And like, we don't need that much money. And just like psychologically, it messes with your brain. Oh, I have all this money to spend. Well, what could it be doing for you elsewhere? Like
Right.
earning a lot of interest a year. So, it gets that money out of your checking account. And then you're planning consistently for, or like you're planning and earning interest on saving for inconsistent and unplanned expenses, right? You're earning interest on saving for Christmas. You're earning interest on saving for car repairs. You're earning interest on saving for like the whammies, like we said, or when your car needs tires and you have Amazon and AAA like renew in the same month. So it just like really stops the cycle of unexpected expenses from
Yeah.
going on your credit card, or at least helps, right? Say you put $50 aside a month for car maintenance and in 6 months you need some work on your car that's like $500. Guess what? Well, now you only have to come up with $200 because you have $300 like saved already. How much
Yeah.
easier is that to absorb like the balance than if you'd done nothing?
Yep.
So yeah, that's
Okay.
that's how I help people organize.
So the burning question that I have, which we're going to address next week, is what if there's nothing left over to put anywhere?
Yeah.
Right? That's the debt repayment. And like
Mhm.
we're going to dig into that next week, presumably. Am I right on that?
Yes. Yes.
Because wouldn't it be wonderful if I had $50 and $200 and $1,000 and like all this extra to just put away? But I
Yeah.
recognize that's not everybody's reality at the
No.
beginning,
No.
right?
No.
And
And
so
yeah, we look at
go ahead.
expenses. It's either overspending or under earning, or maybe a combination of both.
Yep.
Probably usually, yeah, sometimes a combination of both. And that's where it comes to habits. But in terms of the like, what I thought you were going to ask is like setting up all those accounts seems like a lot of work, because
No, if
people get that
someone's
like,
got a couple $1,000 extra at the end of the month, they're going to set up those accounts. That's not the work. The work
well, but
is
a
getting,
lot of people get like, they're just like, that's a lot of work. Like, I just have my one checking account. It's fine. Like, why should I do all that? Right. And anything like worth doing is going to be work, right? Like adulting is work. Like, sorry to break it to you,
yeah,
But again, like if you want to have a different financial life a year from now, and this is true for getting out of debt, right? And if there's nothing left over at the end of the month, right? Sometimes you do have to pick up an extra job. Sometimes you do have to, go drive DoorDash or sell some stuff. But all of it's going to be work, right? But if you want a different financial life in 6 months from now, in a year from now, like you got to do something differently than what you've been doing, right? And
right.
so for me, like again, we talked about clarity and getting total clarity and not being able to see where our money goes is why people like live in chaos and don't save enough and don't um, get out of debt and like don't know where their money is going. When you separate it into these three categories and into these like three kinds of accounts, you know what's going in and out each month. And you're going to have enough to cover the bills when they're due, or we strategize around what do we put on a card and whatnot. But it's
Right.
like you have clarity. You have, okay, here's my bills, here's like the spending cash that I have, and here's what I'm putting into savings. And it's all separate. So they're not commingling, they're not mixed. Your savings account isn't giving you like false ideas that you have that much cash to go spend. Right.
Yeah.
And then the consistency, because we're people of habit. Like we want to have things on auto pay. We want to, everything like we're making those random categories resemble a fixed and recurring expense. So like I'm paying for car repairs, like $50 a month, every single month on auto pay. It just goes into that bucket and it grows without me even like seeing it, and
Well, and how
so
cool is it when you need new tires? Just be like, I got that.
yeah, that is sometimes like the most powerful moment where people are like, oh my God. And they'll forget because they've never done it before. And so they'll forget that like they have this like on auto pay that's setting it up. And they're like, I had to come up with this. And I'm like, girlfriend, like what is in your ally bucket? And I'm like, oh my God, I
Yep.
forgot that I had money for that. And how cool is
Yeah.
that? Yeah. And it's, that clarity and consistency is how we get off the roller coaster. Every month looks the same. Like you have trackable progress toward those goals. You could see the debts going down. You can see cash coming in and out. You can make real time decisions of like, should I go to steak night or not, based on
Right.
how much you have in that category. And you see your buckets growing. And again, it's not linear, right? Like we're not just going to get on this plan and like everything goes great from here on out. But
Yeah.
when we can
Well, because we're
control, like,
undoing habits,
yeah.
undoing and relearning different
Mhm.
habits, and it takes time.
It does. It takes time, it takes setup, but then when we get it on auto pay and we get it on auto transfer to our savings, like it gets so much easier and it just takes all the stress out of like the daily money management. But yeah, you have to do the work first.
Okay. So if you're sitting here watching us going, I want to get there, then I want you to tune in this time. Will be this time next week? Anyway, it'll be on my page.
Yeah.
It's definitely Tuesday. I think it's this time next week.
Tuesday
Um,
noon mountain. So at 3 Eastern.
yes. Okay. Because we're going to talk about debt, right? And getting out of bad debt. Not all debt is bad, but there's some debt that is destructive. There's debt that keeps us up at night, right?
Yep.
So we started here because we want you to see the vision of what's possible,
Yeah.
right? Let's start with understanding the how our money is operating, where it's going, setting up some of these things that you can set up this week.
Yeah.
Now, Steph, if someone's listening and they're like, I need to have a conversation with her,
Yeah.
how does that work?
So I usually start with, I call it a trailhead Q&A call. I'm in Colorado and grew up in the Pacific Northwest. So I'm very into hiking and mountains and outdoors and all of that. So we start at the trailhead, right? Let's just book a conversation. We'll have a 20-minute chat about, some of your financial roadblocks, what you're looking for help with, what you want to get out of coaching, and if we're a good fit. And we go from there. Then we would book a base camp session. So base camps were our foundations, all the tools and systems and things that we need to go on this journey are like established at base camp. And so, yeah, for financial literacy and all month long, that we're having these chats for anyone that's watching this, especially those in your community. I'm offering $20 off a base camp session. So
Awesome.
we'll post the links to both my Q&A call, if you want to have a conversation before going to booking that base camp, or if you're ready and you're just like, let's dive in, book a 2-hour base camp session. You'll get all the prep work ahead of time, and we will like literally dive in and apply everything I just talked about to your personal numbers. And so just using the code ALLYMONA, ALLYMONA, for
Yay.
that base camp session, get you $20 off all month for Financial Literacy Month. But
Okay.
you can join us next week, talk about debt and mindset, and we'll keep enjoying this conversation and offering some value to our communities for free, and just really loving helping people get more educated and literate about where their money's going this month.
Yeah. And this is a very useful personal conversation to myself. So I know that this is for everyone else, but at the same time, we're back in debt after getting out of it.
Yep,
And,
in there.
and right. And it's like, I know what to do, but I don't want to do it. And my husband and I have conflict in that because he worries about money and I go, don't fetter me. Stop putting a leash on me. And I spend on my businesses. I don't spend on things. I want
Yeah,
to invest in growing businesses. So, um, this has been super inspirational for me to just get back on the bandwagon. I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
I think the only way I know how to do it is that way.
Hmm.
And I'm unwilling to do that again. I think that's where my personal block is
Yep.
going, I'm not suffering to get out of debt this time. Like I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Right. Um,
And we
so
can
I
set this up for businesses too. Like I work with entrepreneurs and a lot of women entrepreneurs also tend to be divorced in my circles. Like they wake up and are like, want to get their finances in order once they go through some stuff, right? Whatever that looks like for you, but that's very common when you go through a divorce. And then it feels like, okay, well, let's start a business. Like I'm gonna live my life on my terms in my own way, and then those women like go start a lot of businesses. So we can apply all those frameworks to all of your business finances as well at like a more micro level, so that you're actually paying yourself every single month, regardless of how much you bring in every month. Like that this month's
no.
income is not paying this month's bills. Little teaser.
Yes.
Yeah. Like you can pay yourself a consistent amount of money every single month, regardless of what you're bringing in on inconsistent income as an entrepreneur. So that's like another offset of my business. I love like getting nerdy about that kind of stuff because it's so fun when you get to pay yourself the same amount of money every month and budget for investing in courses, a budget for retreats,
Yeah.
budget for, your dream life budget. And it comes from like what your dream business budget would be, right? And how much you have to actually make in your business to be able to pay what you need to support your life.
Right. I love that. Well, we're going to put all those links for you in the description for this so that you have, if you want to schedule that 20-minute with Steph or you want to just jump in and use that code to get $20 off of that first session.
Yeah.
Um,
And I
but
think I
this
only
is
have 4 slots left in April for base camp sessions. I'm going on
okay.
vacation twice in April. And so, yeah, I only have 4 slots left in April. You don't have to book the base camp session for April to get the discount,
Yeah.
but you got to
But
book
if
it
you
in
want to get
April.
started,
Yeah,
if
you
you're
got to book
like,
it in
I'm hungry,
April to get the
yes,
discount.
like
Yeah.
I'm hungry, I'm hungry. Um, and yeah, okay. So thank you, Stephanie, for
Thank
this. This has
you. This was
been
so fun.
super fun. And again, I appreciate your approach. And when we got, just so you guys know, if you're watching, like when we decided to do this, we got on a phone call to make sure that we were in alignment
Yeah.
with how I run my business, how she runs her business, because it matters, right?
Yeah.
It matters who you partner with and who you kind of align brands with. Um, and so I
That was
value
a
that
super
in you.
fun, like voice message conversation
Yeah.
back and forth.
Well, what
That was,
about this? No, I'm against that. What about that? Oh, I'm for
that
that
was,
too. It was
we were
really fun.
cracking each other up. That was really funny.
Yeah. It was, and it matters, right? It matters to be able to bring the best that we can for you guys. So,
Yeah.
all right, same time next week for getting rid of bad debt,
For
right?
good.
Ditching bad debt for good. And if you want to talk to Stephanie, get on her calendar right away. Thanks for your time today, friend. I'm so grateful for you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm so grateful for you too. And so fun to connect again in this way.
Absolutely. All right, we'll talk next
All
week.
right. Talk to you next week.